Hi, good evening. Happy Thursday night. This is Vibin with your Ashley Live, and I'm your host, Ashley Live. I'm really excited tonight for tonight's show. We have a very special guest with us. Her name is Emily Schultz. She comes from Canada. She's a singer, a songwriter, as well as a guitarist. I'm really excited to bring her in the room and introduce her to the Vibin with Ashley Live family. So we're gonna hang tight and wait for Emily. I'm gonna invite her into the live really quick. Okay. Hello. Thank you guys for joining me on Thursday evening. Brooke, Mike. Sorry, I don't know who Super Lovac is. Do I know who that is? I'm sorry, I don't. I don't. Liz is here. Emily is here. Okay, Emily, we're gonna go live. Hi, Mike.
Hey,
Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm great. How's it going?
Doing well. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Vibing with Ashley Live. I was just introducing you to people who are already in here. So for those of you who are just joining, this is Vibing with Ashley Live. This is my guest for this evening. Her name is Emily Schultz. She's from Canada, and she's my first Canadian guest here on Vibing with Ashley Live. Really excited to bring her here because I'm based in New York and Emily is based in Canada. So just really excited to have a great conversation with you, learn a little bit more about your process with music,
Yeah,
and have you perform for us a little bit.
yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. I
Okay.
didn't know I was your first Canadian. This is awesome.
First Canadian. So yeah, so I've had a couple US people. I spoke to someone from Australia tonight. He's going to come on soon, but that's like 15 hours ahead of time. So it's like
Gosh.
trying to get schedules, but you know, you're also East Coast Standard Time like me. So,
Yeah, it helps being in the same time zone for sure.
right. Well, I mean, sometimes I'm used to like California time. Like I'm used to just like the 3 hour difference or so. But like when you're like interviewing someone who's 15 hours ahead, I'm like, do I have the math right?
Right. Honestly, I have a group of girlfriends from college, and we were all trying to line up our schedules to do like a group chat,
Yeah.
FaceTime. And one was living in Vancouver, one was in Saskatchewan. I was in Alberta at the time. Another one was in Winnipeg, another one was in Toronto, and another one was in Spain.
Whoa.
So trying to organize all of our schedules so we could see each other. We've only successfully done it twice. So, and we've been trying to do this for the last 6 months. So that tells you how easy it is.
For the third reunion.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. We're going to start the conversation off. So you were born and raised in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how young you were when you first got into music.
Oh man. So when I first started music, I mean, gosh, I remember learning how to harmonize in the car on road trips, listening to Dixie Chicks albums with my sister and my mom and my dad. My dad doesn't admit that he sings, but he can. But yeah, it's been kind of like a cool generational thing where my grandfather taught my mom how to sing, kind of, and then she kind of passed that down onto us. And so I've been singing for basically as long as I can remember. And my older sister, is a musician as well. Her name is Samantha Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
She's an amazing artist based out of LA.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up, music was always kind of her thing. Like she's picked up a guitar at like age 9 or 10 or something like that, and like immediately wrote her first song. And and I was doing 1,000 other things. I was doing martial arts and dancing and doing all of these different things at the time, and so music was kind of her thing. And I would sing backup for her all the time. I picked up a trusty shaker egg, and kind of my trajectory towards playing percussion and doing backup vocals kind of started.
Amazing.
And then meanwhile, I was exploring, like I said, all of these different avenues of expression, with acting and with dancing and, like I said, with martial arts, and just exploring what all of these other things looked like. But music was always kind of the through line, which was really cool. So I was always singing, always in choirs, performing with my sister. I grew up kind of in the folk community in Edmonton, which is such an underrated community, to be honest. It's one of the most beautiful things, where I would go to my aunt's house, and every like other weekend they would invite like a dozen or 20, 25 other different musicians, world-class players, and they would just jam. And that's how I really learned how to appreciate what music can be, and spontaneity of playing with other people, and how exciting it can be to create something in the moment. So that's kind of where I grew up, playing a lot of music there, but again, never really doing my own thing, just because I think I came up in my mind, I was like, I already know what a good song sounds like, so like I can't just like pretend to write a song. I can't like write craft songs first, like I can't go through that part. And everybody was like, yeah, you could, that makes sense. And
practice makes perfect. Oh,
it's just such a ridiculous excuse not to start writing music. So yeah, Edmonton was amazing, honestly. It's a really great city. It's big enough that things still happen, but like not big enough for more than one thing to happen at a time. So like because of that, you have the entire community is backing one thing. So versus Toronto, where you have people, there are just hundreds of things to do all the time. So everybody has something to do. It's really easy to if you have any kind of semblance of talent and drive in Edmonton, to be able to get in front of people and play for people that are actually willing to listen to your music, like and willing to pay to listen to your music. And so Edmonton is great for that sense, like just really great community, really driven around just good quality people, which is what I really like. Yeah, so that's kind of where it all started. And then I like I said, I did some theater for a while. So I went to college in Victoria at the Canadian College of Performing Arts, and kind of explored performing arts in all its genres and what that looks like out there. Got a film and TV agent, and then moved to Vancouver and did a couple of contracts out there. And I realized quickly that like I hate auditioning, and I don't ever want to do it ever again.
That is definitely a process.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's really intense. And so I just kind of stopped doing it. And then I ran into one day a guy that I used to play music with in high school. His name is Jordan Hart. And he was busking on Granville Street one day, and I was coming home from work, and all of a sudden I hear Emily Schultz, like amplified over a sound system, which was really intense. And I turned around, and it's Jordan. He's there, and I hadn't seen him in a really long time. We'd had a bit of a falling out in high school, but we used to play a lot of music together. So he's like, "Are you playing? Or like, what's going on? Like, do you want to play a song with me?" Like, okay, I haven't even sang into a microphone for a year. I haven't done anything artistic in about a year. And so we ended up singing a song together, and it was one of the happiest experiences I'd had in a really long time. And we started playing music together like crazy. And he was the first person to tell me that I was psycho for thinking that like I couldn't write music, because I'd never tried. He was like, "Why don't you just try?"
Yeah, just try it, because you never know where it's going to take you until you go and put yourself in that situation.
Exactly. And I think the perfectionist in me was like, but I can't fail. I have to do it perfect right out the bat. And
but practice makes perfect. So it's like the first song you ever write is like, as much as you want it to be good, like it's not. You have to do like 50, 60, 100 songs, and maybe the 101 song is that amazing song, but you still have some classics and some amazing things from maybe your third or fourth song, right?
Exactly. I watched a documentary, the Songwriter documentary by Ed Sheeran, and one of the things that he said was songwriting is like turning on a faucet in a really old house, and like a lot of the stuff that comes out first is just gunk and gross and just crap. But the more that you keep the faucet going, the more it'll run clear, and soon it'll just be it'll just be clear water.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I picked up a guitar while I was living in Vancouver. Luckily, my roommate was really nice and let me play her guitar all the time. So started learning through that, and through the kind of encouragement of Jordan and taking the time to just experiment with myself, I started writing songs. And it turned out to be one of like the most cathartic thing in my life till this day. Like to be able, it's my favorite way of expressing myself in a way that I think is really easy to relate to, like relatable for people, sometimes pushes people's boundaries in a way that sometimes they need to be pushed. But yeah, I don't know. My goal as a songwriter is essentially to just be vulnerable first, to encourage people to also be vulnerable, because I think that's what the world needs right now.
Of course. And it's like the more honest and vulnerable you are with yourself, the more people can relate to you. Because if you're just like one way all the time, especially with the past several months that we've had, did you go through anything? Like, did you learn anything? Right? Right?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, the last 5 months have been so good for me music-wise.
That's amazing though. So refreshing to hear, because so many people that you and I know have like gone through some crap, right? And like it's just it's hard to hear these stories or go through them yourself, right? But then like to hear that you've had such a great couple of months is really exciting.
Yeah, well, like don't get me wrong, like it's difficult. Like it's harder to see what the future looks like, essentially. So when COVID hit, kind of I remember having a conversation with someone and talking about the logistics of like what it actually means to make money off of music just as a recording artist.
Right.
And as somebody who doesn't have any recorded music, I was just listening to the conversation being like, oh, my dreams have just crashed down in front of me. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
However, with that, there was this amazing amount of freedom that came for me of, rather than like, I need to make my music this brand, or how do I deliver it in a package that is receivable and consumable to people, and overthinking about the business aspect of it. And like, how can I make money off of my own music? Like, I have to make sure that I'm doing this. And I think that really held me at bay for a long time, of taking the next few steps. Right. So with that kind of collapse of my hopes and dreams of ideally being a touring, playing, recording musician, came a lot of freedom of just like, well, the chances of me making a great music career are probably slim to none now that I can't perform because the world is shut down. Yeah. So why don't I just do this because I love it?
Of course.
And the freedom in that of just, I'm going to write a country song today because it doesn't matter if that doesn't go with my brand, or I'm going to write this, or I'm going to do that, or there was a lot of clarity that came with just the freedom of the pressure. The pressure being off. And I think since then I've actually found a lot more of myself, and I feel a lot more confident and a lot more ready to actually take those steps that I think that I've been needing to take for a while.
Right. And it kind of just went into it, because there were so many things that people have found out about themselves during COVID that you never would have experienced if it wasn't for this whole like global pandemic, right?
Yeah, it's definitely like, it's incredibly tragic, and the world is in a very fragile place right now, obviously. But there have been a lot of beautiful blessings, I think, from many, many people.
And you had to hit rock bottom in order to even see that, because there's things I think about and I'm like, oh my gosh, but if this pandemic didn't like bring this to the surface, like I'd still be dealing with this issue. So it's just that level of clarity. Like there's so much that's going to come out of this, and so much good as far as creativity and just all of that. So I think you may have touched on this earlier, but who inspired you to get into music?
Oh man. It was just such a big part of my family, I think, and like part of my community growing up,
right.
That it was just something that I've always loved, just loved how it makes me feel. And the more that I progress with my own artistry, I think I realized that the happiest that I am is when I'm performing music with other people. Like music that I've written
The energy of like seeing other people and like improving and doing the whole jam.
Yeah. It's just jamming. Like I love that so much.
Yeah, it's cool.
And when like I said, when my this acting situation, theater career, when I realized I was just like not happy, and I really took a hard look at my life and I said, what makes me happy? Really makes me happy the most? And it's always been music. It's always those like beautiful moments that you share on stage, with either the audience or with other players, and the magic that you can spin. So I guess there's that. And then my sister was always a huge inspiration to me. Like, she was playing at festivals across Canada, invite only, by the time she was 16. Like, incredible. Kicking ass, like really just doing amazing work, and
right.
was really honest with her songwriting. And so yeah, I would say probably that, coupled with the music community from Alberta, and then the person that really helped me believe that I could do it, and to challenge myself, is Jordan. So yeah, it's a good life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so nice. And you're glowing when you talk about it. Like, and I'm sure the other people that are in this chat, they just see that. Like, when you're honest with yourself and you do what you love, you just radiate. And for anybody that's in this chat right now watching this conversation, like, when you sit in that stillness and like you think of like, what do I find the most joy in doing? Like, and it comes to you, and like, that's the journey that you need to take, and that's so powerful. And I love that you said that. So you did speak on this a little bit earlier, but what prompted the move from Edmonton to Toronto?
So I initially I moved from Edmonton to Victoria for school, and then Victoria to Vancouver.
Okay.
I was living in Van for a while, and I didn't mention this, but Jordan is actually my husband.
I was going to get to that. That's it.
Yeah.
Not right now, but we can go there if you want.
So I feel like it's an important thing to mention, because
he's such a big part of your life. So
yeah, it's just a huge part of my life. So I never honestly thought about Toronto.
Okay.
Because Vancouver is like the most beautiful place in the world. Have you ever been?
No, I haven't. I went to Ottawa maybe like 8 or 9 years ago for I think it was a Dave Matthews concert. And I know. There was the whole thing in high school where we just went to Dave Matthews concerts, and we would just travel and travel. And I'm in New York, so like everybody I knew would be like, "Oh, we're going to Saratoga and we're going to Albany," and like Dave Matthews thing. So I went to Ottawa the last time I was there. So it's been quite a while since I've been in high school. So that was the last time I was there. And now with COVID, like, I feel like I have all this time to travel, and I can't.
Yeah. Oh, Dave Matthews. If you can travel for Dave Matthews, like, if there's going to be a band, you're going to travel for it.
Yeah. So it's like, I definitely want to experience Canada. I mean, I just think it's so beautiful up there, and I'm really big into music. So part of my travel is experiencing the music venues of the place I go to. So if you want to, hit me in afterwards to what music to look at when I plan my trip.
Absolutely. Honestly, bucket list thing for anybody who's in this chat is the Edmonton Folk Fest. The Edmonton Folk Festival is like a spiritual experience. Yeah. It's so much fun. It's right in the heart of the Edmonton River Valley. And it's on the side of this just massive hill that you can fit 25,000 people on.
Incredible.
They have a main stage, and then they have 6 other side stages. And it's just like you enter a different world for 4 days. They have all of these like beautiful traditions. They have this one thing where you can buy candles, like candlesticks that come with cups on them, so they don't melt onto you. But everybody buys these candles, and at night the whole hill lights up with these candles. And it's not just that, but you have all these massive you have the main stage acts that come on, which are fantastic, and they do these little tweener sets to highlight like other local or smaller artists in between, and then all the side stages are just jams that basically happen. They have,
and you're in heaven because you're like, jamming's my thing.
My life. I love Edmonton Folk Fest. If you ever get a chance to go, it's transformative.
I actually
really
have
beautiful.
I have a bucket list of things I'm going to do after the world kind of opens.
Right.
That is going on the list because I have very simple things on that list, but I also have like places I want to visit or restaurants I want to go to or like festivals or that would be absolutely incredible. Now, did you just attend that festival or did you perform?
I played there a couple times. So the first time I went, my sister performed, and I was young. I was like 10 the first time I went.
Oh, wow, that's young.
Because she was a badass. She was 13 and performing on the tweener set on the main stage, like no problem. Samantha Schultz coming through. And then I did some backing up for different artists a few years in a row on some of the side stages, and then also backed up my sister on a couple tweener sets on the main stage. So got to play them, got to play the festival, and then have also attended many times, and it's just really, it's beautiful. It's a highlight of the Edmonton experience. So,
oh my God.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, so anyway, Vancouver, most amazing city. It's so beautiful. I lived in the downtown core, and it's just, the downtown is on this little peninsula that opens out into the ocean, and there's Rocky Mountains on one side, and then the city on the other, and it's stunning. I love Vancouver. I love it so much. Whenever I go back, I'm like, oh, I love this city. It's so amazing. It just gives me so much joy. But the music scene is pretty quiet out there. And at that point, Jordan and I had just kind of started dating. And at this point, he was kind of like popping off a little bit with his own music, like his impression with music, and was starting to talk to like management teams and stuff, and he was like, I think I want to move to Toronto. I'm like, oh, but I'm in love and we just got together. Like, what do you mean? And so we actually we got booked to do like 2 weeks of radio stuff for his like to be released single at the time. And so we came to Toronto. It was like the middle of December or something like that. We were here for 2 weeks, and it just made such an amazing impression on both of us. The culture here is nuts. Obviously, I think kind of similar to New York in that way. Like so many different, so many different cultures coming in, and ethnicities and backgrounds kind of weaving in and out of each other, and like hearing multiple languages being spoken on a daily basis. And then not just that, but like everybody's passionate, everybody's excited, and everybody has something to share with you, which was really cool and really captivating as a young artist to kind of be thrown into that and be inspired by the amount of drive and the amount of energy kind of cultivating in this city. So we went for a couple weeks, fell in love with it, came back, and we're like, okay, yeah, this is probably the best place for us to go. So we've been here for like 4.5 years.
That's awesome.
I think.
And you see yourself staying there for the long term?
Not necessarily. I mean, one thing that Jordan and I have both realized through COVID, because we actually went back to Alberta to spend some time with our family, just to kind of get out of the city. Yeah. We're like, okay, no, we actually really want to be closer to our parents. Of course. And just be closer to our family. I think that there's a lot of growing with them that I think we've missed out on, personally, that I've missed out on with my mom and dad. So, and we like mountains and lakes and stuff, and it's not that Toronto doesn't have that to offer, but it's very concrete where we're at. So
right, definitely. So how would you describe the music that you typically create?
Oh, I feel like I have two different hats when I create music. I feel like one part of me is very much so this grew up in Edmonton, folk-based, only listen to the Dixie Chicks, so needs 3-part harmony on everything. Right. That kind of style, where it is more folk roots, Americana kind of driven. And then I have another part of me, which is like, I'm in Toronto and I need to be Drake. So here's more like acoustic R&B stuff, which I really like. And I think that both sides represent me. accurately.
Right.
More and more lately, though, I think I think mostly what I focus on is what I have to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes the genre changes depending on what the topic is.
Mm-hmm.
And like I mentioned earlier, it's if it's honest and if it's vulnerable and if it's authentic, that's what I'm focused on first, is to be vulnerable, and to be self-exploratory, and yeah, because I think that in doing that and in opening that door first, it allows people to maybe be a little bit more self-reflective. So yeah, I think it just kind of depends. What's kind of cool about having two different pathways through music is that everybody connects to something in a different way. And some stuff that might be a little bit more folk roots might not land with somebody who likes the kind of like R&B soul stuff, and vice versa. So yeah, I don't know, you get a little bit of a range. So
yeah, definitely. So walk me through your creative process. What does that look like?
Ooh. Most of the time I'll come up with some kind of guitar piece.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me kind of determines the vibe of the song.
Mm-hmm.
This is like 9 times out of 10 how I write.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes songs just like, they come right out of me and I don't have any control over it. It just is already a complete piece in my head.
But that's got to be such a feeling. Like it's
insane.
Go through you.
I'm like, why doesn't this happen all the time? What do you mean? I can't just not try and write an amazing song.
Definitely.
Yeah, so most of the time I come up with some kind of guitar progression or pattern, and then usually just improvise over top of it.
Yeah.
And if something lands or sticks out to me with either a melody or a lyric or both, I'll write that down. And since I'm coming from a place of improvisation, it's very authentic. And usually it relates to whatever the overall topic will probably be. So I trust my own gut instinct from the first initial improv, and then usually I'll base the topic around that, whatever comes out first. So.
Nice. So who would you most like to collaborate with?
Oh, man.
So many, right?
Honestly, right now, it would probably be Brandy Carlisle. I don't know if you know who that is.
Sorry, you broke up for just a minute.
It would probably be Brandy Carlisle.
Okay, yes, I definitely know Brandy.
She's so good. Yeah. I'm definitely feeling the folk lately.
Yes.
And she's definitely somebody who's been like a female icon of mine for like the last 10 years ish.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Jordan surprised me with tickets once to her show at Massey Hall, which is one of our like legendary venues here in Toronto. And I just like sat and openly wept the whole time.
Hey, but that's the best feeling when you hear music or when you're in a venue and you just start bawling your eyes out. Like that is absolutely everything. Because it's like, do you cry because you're sad, or do you cry just because like you're so overwhelmed with joy that like you're experiencing the music in that venue?
Yeah.
Right?
It's cool. Oh, I would freak out. I'd freak out for sure. But what about you? Who would, if you could be on stage with anybody, who would?
If I collaborate with anybody, oh my gosh, there's so many people. I'll give you like 2 off the top of my head. JK from Jamiroquai. I think he's phenomenal, and I think that Jamiroquai never really made it big over here in the U.S. They were pretty much very popular over in Europe and overseas.
Okay.
And then Lenny Kravitz.
Cool.
Lenny is just rock god. Like his whole vibe. He's all about love, and he's just had a career that stands the test of time. I mean, I'm not like a musician per se. I'm just someone who like appreciates music. But hey, if they wanted to collab with me, not a musician, I'd be down. I'm into the whole like funk kind of thing. Like I love all music, but I think I'm driven towards like funk, feel good. I don't know, but
Lenny Kravitz will be your next guest. You know.
Oh my god.
It couldn't hurt. I wonder what would happen if you like DM'd him.
Oh my gosh. Hey, let's put it into the universe. Lenny on Vibin with Ashley Live. That would be
Yeah.
phenomenal. And I, like Emily, it's here. We're doing it. Um, but thanks for that question. I wasn't actually expecting. I didn't know what answer I was going to say until you brought it up. But here
It means it's real.
So, do you prefer to do your original music or to perform covers?
Mostly I prefer to do originals. But then the odd cover thrown in there is it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to interpret other people's work as well.
Of course.
I mean, yeah, some of my favorite covers are I love Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. That song like makes me cry while I'm singing it because it's so beautiful. I think it's one of the most incredible pieces of art that's ever been made.
Yes.
What else?
She's incredible, by the way. Like, slept on. Like, Tracy Chapman, seriously. Like, what was that? Like, the 90s that she came out with, but it's like phenomenal.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, truly iconic.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, just being able to take somebody else's art and then transform it and translate it into something that means something to you and say it in a different way, or it's just, that's also really fun too. Totally. And sometimes that's exactly what you need in order to express how you're feeling, right? So,
of course, definitely.
Yeah, so I would say mostly originals, but then the odd cover here and there. So.
Yeah. So what song do you wish you wrote and why?
Oh gosh. Well, I would have said Fast Car.
I know, I was like,
but now I'm stressed. Oh, okay. I wish that I wrote, there's so many.
I know, tons. You can pick like one or two.
Okay. One is Let Him Fly by Patty Griffin. So I grew up listening to the Dixie Chicks version of that, naturally. I don't know if you could tell. I guess they're just the Chicks now. Anyway. So I wish I wrote that song because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about what it's like. I don't know. At the end of relationships, when you don't want it to end.
Yeah.
And knowing that, sometimes I have to let this person go. And the way that it's written is just like, it's so gracious.
Yeah.
It's so gracious. And just the melodies and the guitar piece is so beautiful. And it's simple and it's graceful and it's powerful. And I wish I wrote it, but I did not. So I have to write my own iconic song.
Your own rendition of that, right?
My own one. I'll just have to cover that one. So I wish I wrote that one. And then, oh man, there's a song called A Few Things by J.P. Saxe, which is this like beautiful kind of like alternative pop soul song. J.P. Saxe is he's a singer-songwriter from Toronto, and he is just off the charts talented. He's the guy that did that duet with Julia Michaels, If the World Was Ending.
Okay.
So he has this song that I'm talking about, A Few Things, was like his breakout single. And again, it's this song about not necessarily always explaining that the person that you're with is important to you, but like at the end of the day, you're one of the few things that I'm sure of. And it's just like, again, like the songwriting, the way that the melody and the production work together, just paints it in such a beautiful light. And he just captured that feeling so beautifully. So again, I wish I wrote it, but I'll just take that inspiration and I'll write some for myself.
Of course, you'll have your own rendition of it. So you touched on this earlier. You actually just got married a couple months ago, but you speak about Jordan all the time when you talk about your music. So I guess bring us through that journey and tell me about how you help each other out in your respective careers.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool because, like I said earlier, we started playing music together in high school, and we were introduced to play with each other. Like that's how we met. I was doing percussion and backup vocals at the time, and he was this kind of like up and coming singer songwriter in the scene, and so we started as coworkers together, and have always had a really weird, like freaky musical connection. Like, we're always really in sync with where the other person wanted to go. So when we ended up getting together and actually really playing and creating music together, he's just, I think we're both to each other someone, how do I put this? We already know it comes from a place of love.
Oh, that's
because we're married.
Yes.
And because it comes from a place of love, there isn't any malice behind constructive criticism.
Right.
It's, I think we both really respect each other as artists. And I trust his taste, and he trusts my vision. And so when it comes to creating together, I mean, gosh, like we're like a 2-person team for all of this stuff. Like we'll go out and do photo shoots and then edit them together. And
I thought he does most of your photos. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you have a partner, you have like a husband, but then you have a partner in music, and then you have a photographer, which, I mean,
it's insane.
It's hard to find a good photographer. It really, you like hit the trifecta there.
Yeah, so it's really cool, and kind of similarly, like I do all of that stuff for him, and like when he's tracking vocals, like I engineer his sessions because we have our own little home studio, and through that I've learned a lot about production and a lot about recording, and so it just works really well with each other. I think that, like I said, because we started as coworkers, it's easier to be like, okay, I have to put the coworker hat on. I don't want you to take this personally. Like, here's how, like, we can work on this to create something even more beautiful. And having an artistic partner as well as, you know, a partner in life, it's just really great. It obviously comes with its own challenges. But I mean, constant communication, which I think is necessary for any relationship, regardless of whether you're a friend or a parent or, you know, a coworker or anything, any of those things, just being really clear and open and coming from a place of love, just saying, this is not supposed to be mean. Like, I'm excited. Here are all these ideas I have for you. And I see you for who you are. And I love you for who you are. And I just want you to be happy and successful in what you do. So it's been really good, honestly. And it's been funny because I've been home for a while, and he's used to me leaving and having the space in the studio to himself. And now I'm here being like, hey,
hey, it's me again.
I need stuff to be done too. And so again, like, we're working on what that looks like, and overall just trusting each other and trying to remain open and honest. And yeah, we just really respect each other as artists, which I think is really valuable, to have somebody to be your sounding board.
Definitely. That's so cool, because then you can kind of, yeah, you're right, like as a musician, like sometimes the partner that you're with doesn't get it because they're not in the music industry, but you guys kind of do the same thing. So it's kind of like when you talk to him, he's like, oh, I get that. Like he understands where you're coming from than just saying like, oh yeah, I get it.
100%. And not only that, like we both push ourselves to be better. Right. And I really love that. I really love that about both of us, how there's so much music out there. There's so much that can be done. And I think that one thing, like I said, we're realizing is that people can really see through things that aren't authentic.
Right.
And so sometimes it's easy to grab for that low-bearing fruit of a line, and you're like, it's like not the best line, but like maybe, and I know that I can trust him to say like, let's relook at that, because we can do better and it can be amazing, and I trust his taste again as he trusts mine. So it's it's nice to have somebody who's also challenging you.
Definitely. You always want to be in a relationship where the person makes you want to be better, I mean, that's the best kind of relationship. So congrats on your marriage.
Thank you.
July, right?
July. Yeah.
July. Awesome. So Jordan just launched something called the Sunset Session. So tell me about that and how that came about.
Yeah, he's doing that one right now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so it's even though the sun has completely set and it's dark. Anyway, so we came back to Toronto a couple months ago, once things started to open back up in Toronto. And he normally makes a lot of his living during the summertime busking.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like, you could do it, but like, it's just, I don't know if anybody necessarily feels safe kind of doing something like that. And especially with him, he's excellent at what he does and pulls like a ton of people. And so he came up with this idea to throw these secret shows at sunset in random places around Toronto.
Awesome.
For like a select amount of people, so that you didn't have 100 people showing up on the street. We still got to perform, still get to enjoy live music, but we're not, overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's not dangerous. It's not super dangerous. So, yeah, he started doing those when we got back, and then I had my second one the other night, so I started doing those as well. And they're great. I mean,
it's amazing. I wish I was in Toronto so I could come.
It's really fun. I mean, like I said, people are kind of bored right now. I don't know about you guys. Everybody's bored. Nobody knows what to do. Everybody misses live music, as you know, and it really fits with both of our kind of, I guess, our vibes of the like intimate singer-songwriter. I'm just gonna play some music for you while the sun sets, and you can just hang out with a blanket and some tea, or whatever you want in that tea. But I mean, enjoy the music, and it's just an hour.
Yeah.
And it's just for donations. So
I love that. So for people in Toronto that want more information on this, do you get on a list? Like how do you kind of go about that?
Yeah, so for me, I've been kind of doing it one show at a time, just because I get stressed out about weather. Because my first sunset session, I had to like adjust and like do a bunch of stuff because it was supposed to rain right when I was supposed to start. And
Yeah.
so I've been kind of taking it one show at a time. But with Jordan, he's been kind of saying, I'm doing sunset sessions on these days. If you're interested, DM me with which day and how many people you want to come and your email. And so we'll essentially put you on a list and then send you out an email with kind of more like housekeeping stuff. And then the night before, we send you the exact location so that you can show up, which is really fun. So it's kind of like there's like an air of excitement around being involved in something that like not everybody can go to.
Right. It's an exclusive like thing, and plus like everyone misses live music, and I would love to go like in a field and listen to live music with like 20 people and like see you and your husband perform. That just sounds so ideal and amazing. So you performed at a bunch of venues and festival in Canada, the Great Hall, Burdick, the Mod Club, Rivoli. What's your favorite venue to play?
Oh man, so we played the Great Hall, which is this old heritage building, concert venue on, where is it? Queen and Ossington area-ish, which is like kind of the west side of Toronto, central west side. Yeah. And it's this beautiful like old venue that you like, they have the big like wooden doors that you open and a grand staircase that's like carpeted that you have to go up to. And we put together this show for, I think there's like 350 people, 400 people there. And it was two-tiered. So it's just this like kind of like relatively small stage, but like hardwood floor, like old hardwood floors, like beautiful like balcony kind of wrapping around here. And that was just one of the best nights. It was so great. And a lot of the artists that come and play there are kind of like semi, like pretty famous, like B-list artists. I want to say B-list because they're not like
Drake.
They're not Drake, but they're also like killing it on Spotify, and they're very famous people.
Yes.
They're just not Drake. So so
Drake's
it's really cool to have the honor to actually go and play there and like
right.
play our own content, and I got to, yeah, that was one of the first times that like I've had like a crazy crowd experience with them like singing my songs back to me.
That's incredible.
It was nuts, and it was crazy. Yeah, I have this one song that I wrote for my family called "Away Away," and it has a very singable chorus. And somebody started like a foot stomp during it. I was just singing, and I had a couple of my friends on stage playing and singing with me in 3-part harmony, and the whole audience is singing. It was nuts. It was crazy. So 10 out of 10 would recommend the Great Hall once it's open again. So, pardon me?
Is that in Toronto?
Yes, that's in Toronto. Yeah.
Okay. But I want to go to Toronto as well, and I'm going to have a bunch of venues I want to hit up. So definitely I will look for you or someone else at the Great Hall.
Yeah, the Great Hall, honestly, it's so cool. One of the smaller venues that I really love playing, I've played there a couple times, is called Burdock, which is actually attached to a local brewery.
Cool.
So it's this like very cute restaurant / brew house. And then they have this smaller venue space that can fit like 90 people in there, but there are these like beautiful Edison lights that are kind of strung along it, and it's a small stage and just a really intimate vibe.
Yeah.
But like they just treat their artists so well.
Yeah.
And the sound is always really good. And yeah, I don't know. You put Christmas lights on anything, I'm like gonna enjoy it. Like put Edison lights anywhere, and I'll enjoy it. So
fun, and you know.
Yeah, it just sets the vibe.
Totally. So we're in the middle of this global pandemic. How are you as a musician handling this, and how do you think the music industry is going to change because of it? Oh,
it's interesting because one thing that I've heard is that like intimate kind of like folk music and like adult contemporary music is like really taking a back seat, and like trap music and EDM has just like skyrocketed. And I think it's because people aren't getting their fix when they go out, and so instead they're just like blasting it at home, being like, I need to party but I can't. So I think that it's interesting when it comes to people who write about things that are a little bit more difficult to handle, because I think obviously we're in a dystopian world right now where everything's on fire and people just want to feel good, and they don't necessarily want to explore what that looks like. So when it comes to intimate folk singer-songwriters like myself, it might be a little bit more difficult. I think there's already been a huge shift to online performing, and trying to figure out how to create like extraordinary experiences like that. One artist that I really like, his name is Dermott Kennedy. He's from the UK. He did this crazy, like one of the most incredible artistic experiences I've ever witnessed in my life. Did a concert and like a theatrical experience based out of like the Museum of Natural History. And had an actor come in and do monologues kind of in between songs, and it was all one shot, and it was beautiful. And it was only like $15 per screen to purchase to be a part of that, which was nothing. I think it's nothing. It's nothing for the level of experience. Like easily would have paid $150 a ticket to go see that live. So I think it's going to be, that being said, it's going to be a lot harder for musicians to make money, because I think that we're not going to be allowed to perform indoors for a while to large amounts of people. But I think we're just going to have to get creative, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels really bleak when I think about it.
You try to get hope and you're like, what are other people doing? Like, how are we all getting through this, especially as musicians? Because you're like, okay, so like, when am I going to be able to book a show again? Like, do we do it outside? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, these sunset sessions have been great to kind of
Yeah.
mitigate that.
Yeah,
But we do live in a very cold country most of the year.
of
So it'll
course.
be interesting kind of moving forward
Yeah.
into the winter. Again, I
Hmm.
think we're just going to have to get creative,
Totally.
which I think there's a lot of opportunity too in terms of like combining with local spaces
Of course.
to hopefully get them some business and recognition.
Mhm.
I think we're just going to have to lean on each other quite a bit.
Definitely. And be loving, lead with love, and know that just tap into your creative juices.
Yeah.
That. So, I want to be honest with you. We're getting 9 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock, they shut it down
Oh,
and
okay.
they want you to perform for us.
Yeah.
So, what I'd like to do, if you're okay with this, and everybody that's in the chat as well, I want to shut this down and then I want to restart it. And like, it's 8:51 Eastern Standard Time, right? 8:51. I want to shut it down, save it so we can, see your part one. But also, I want to give you enough time to perform and for people to ask questions. So, are you okay jumping back on here at like 8:58?
Yeah.
Is that okay with you? I just want to make sure that we're good to go because I don't want to I really don't want this video to cut you off when you're in the middle of performing. Like,
Appreciate that. I open my eyes and you're gone.
yes. So how about everybody that's in this chat, Emily, let's resume 8:58 Eastern Standard Time. I just want to make sure we give Emily the space to perform for us. And then for anybody in the chat that wants to ask her questions, if that's cool as well.
Great.
Cool. Okay. See you at 8:58 and everyone come join back for the second part of Vibin with Ashley Live. See you guys soon.